Have you ever felt like you did everything right? You worked hard, you stayed honest, you played by the rules, and still, life didn't give you what you truly wanted? As if success saw you, smiled for a second, and then walked away? If yes, then listen closely. Because this is the moment life whispers to you. A quiet voice that most people never hear. It says, "There's something more." Most people ignore that whisper. They blame luck, fate, or bad timing. But a few, just a few, pause long enough to listen. And those few go further than the rest. You see, the world doesn't pay for effort alone. It pays for that little extra, the part most people never give. The world rewards the person who adds value beyond the obvious. Because success is never a salary issue. It's a value issue. Andrew Carnegie once told me, "I didn't become rich because of luck. I became rich because I always gave more than I was paid to give." And that's the difference. The man who makes himself indispensable, the man the world cannot do without, that man becomes unstoppable. When you give more than you're asked for, you stop trading time for money. You start trading imagination for destiny. And that, my friend, is something more. Now ask yourself honestly, are you doing just what's required? Or are you quietly doing more than expected? Because in that unseen extra lies your promotion, your recognition, your wealth, and your freedom. Remember this law: the man who does more than he is paid to do will soon be paid for more than he does. Most people get it backwards. They wait for higher pay before giving higher service. They demand appreciation before excellence. But the world doesn't work that way. You must give first, and life always finds a way to return it multiplied. That's what separates the successful from the ordinary. The ones who think a little more, give a little more, and endure a little more. They go further, faster. I once met a young salesman who said, "Mr. Hill, nobody notices me." I asked him, "Have you given anyone a reason to notice you?" He said nothing. Then he began adding something more. A smile, a call, a creative follow-up, a touch of genuine care. And within 1 year, he doubled his income. That wasn't luck. That was law. Success operates under one rule. When you give more to life than you take, life must balance the equation in your favor. But don't mistake something more for blind effort. It's not about working harder. It's about thinking better. It's about seeing what others don't see, asking what others don't ask. How can I make this better? How can I add more value than expected? And when you think that way, your mind awakens. You start seeing opportunity where others see nothing. You start attracting what others chase in vain. That's when destiny opens its door. Most people fail because they believe success demands something extraordinary. But that's not true. Success demands doing ordinary things in an extraordinary way. It's the small, consistent extras that change everything. It could be 5 minutes of extra thought before you act, a small kindness no one sees, or one better way of presenting your ideas. Those small extras build your character, and character is the one thing the universe always rewards. If 2 men start together and one moves ahead, the difference is rarely in luck or talent. It's in that invisible something more. Now maybe you're saying, "But I've already done more and still haven't succeeded." Let me tell you the truth. The law of compensation never fails. It only delays until your value becomes undeniable. Every time you add something more, you are carving your name into opportunity's door. The world is watching, testing your persistence, and when it knows you won't stop, it says, "Now, you are ready." Remember, the richest soil gives its fruit only after the longest patience. So tonight, when you finish your work, don't close the book thinking, "I've done enough." Whisper instead, "And something more." Because in those 3 words lies the entire science of success. So what is that something more? It's not just doing extra work. It's not about staying late or being busy for the sake of it. No, something more begins in your mind, not in your hands. You can't give more until you become more. You can't attract abundance until your mind is tuned to abundance. Every fortune begins as a state of thought before it becomes a state of income. The average person believes success comes from outside, from luck, contacts, or chance. But the truth is, success is an inside job. The riches you seek are waiting behind one locked door, your own consciousness. You are the key. When I interviewed the greatest industrialists of my time, men like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, they all shared one unbreakable truth. Each had mastered the art of self-direction. They never waited for inspiration. They created it. They never waited for opportunity. They prepared for it until opportunity had no choice but to appear. And that preparation came from within. It came from a mind trained to see possibilities where others saw problems. It came from faith in action. Listen carefully. Faith is not some vague belief in miracles. It is the confident expectation that your effort will produce its reward, even when you can't yet see the evidence. That's what gives a man courage to keep saying, and something more. Because while the world counts results, life counts effort backed by faith. And that's where you separate dreamers from achievers. You see, the dreamer says, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the achiever says, "I'll see it because I believe it." And that difference, that small twist of thought, is the hidden force that shapes empires. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you truly believed in your own power? Not in what others told you, not in what your bank account said, but in the quiet truth inside your soul that whispers, "You can do more. You can be more." That's the beginning of something more. The world you see outside is only a reflection of what you carry within. If you hold fear, you meet failure. If you hold courage, you meet opportunity. If you hold resentment, you meet resistance. But if you hold gratitude, you meet miracles. Gratitude, my friend, is the foundation of every prosperous life, because it turns whatever you have into enough. And from that sense of enough, abundance grows naturally. A man once told me, "Mr. Hill, I'll be grateful when I succeed." I said, "No, you'll succeed when you become grateful." That's when his entire life changed. Because gratitude opens the mind, and an open mind attracts ideas, and ideas are the raw material of wealth. Every great fortune began with one idea held by one man who refused to let go. You may think you need money, but you don't. You need imagination, and the faith to act on it. Money is the effect. Imagination is the cause, and every man who masters imagination and action controls his destiny. But here's where most people fail. They confuse action with direction. They move fast, but in circles. They work hard, but without purpose. Remember this truth. Speed without direction is self-destruction. Your goal is not to move fast. It's to move right, and you can only move right when your mind is clear about what you want and why you want it. That's the next law of something more. Clarity. A man without a clear purpose is like a ship without a compass. It may move, but it will never arrive. So ask yourself right now, what exactly do I want from life? Say it out loud. Write it down. Feel it in your bones. Because the moment you define your desire, you send out a signal that the universe cannot ignore. You begin to attract the people, the ideas, and the circumstances that align with your vision. That is the magic of purpose. It turns invisible energy into visible results. And when that purpose is combined with something more, extra thought, extra faith, extra service, you become unstoppable. People will call you lucky. They'll call you gifted. They'll call you blessed. But only you will know the truth. You are simply operating by a higher law. You are living from the inside out. Now let me tell you something few people ever understand. Success is not a race, it's a vibration. You don't chase it. You match it. You don't fight for it. You rise to it. That's why some men with less education and fewer resources achieve greatness, because their attitude matches the frequency of success. A poor man with a rich mind will always become wealthy, but a rich man with a poor mind will always lose it. So here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, practice giving something more in thought. When you feel frustration, replace it with patience. When you face delay, replace it with faith. When you encounter doubt, replace it with action. Do this consistently, and you will start noticing subtle shifts. More opportunities, more peace, more control. That's not coincidence. That's creation. The law of compensation begins to move in your favor the moment you start acting in harmony with it. And harmony begins inside your thoughts. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to rise. All you need is the decision to become more than you were yesterday. That decision, repeated every day, builds a momentum that nothing can stop. Remember this as you go to bed tonight. The world pays you not for what you know, but for what you do with what you know, and for how much heart you put behind it. So when the day ends, don't ask, "Did I finish my work?" Ask instead, "Did I give something more?" Because the man who asks that question will soon find that life begins to answer in ways he never imagined. You've learned that something more begins within you. Now let's take it one step further. How do you turn it into influence, respect, and power that magnetically draws people to you? Because make no mistake, no one ever succeeds alone. Every fortune is built through the cooperation of others. And your ability to win that cooperation depends entirely on how you make people feel in your presence. If your words lift people, if your energy inspires them, if your service adds value to their lives, they will follow you, trust you, and build with you. That's personal magnetism. It's not charm, it's character in motion. There's an unseen energy that every human carries. When your thoughts, words, and actions move in harmony, that energy becomes magnetic. You attract what you are, not what you wish for. You cannot fake this power. You can only become it. The man who genuinely cares, who gives more than expected, who listens with intent and speaks with purpose, that man becomes unforgettable. And the moment you become unforgettable, you become indispensable. That's how leaders rise. That's how fortunes grow. Most people chase influence through empty showmanship, fancy clothes, loud words, and borrowed confidence. But true influence whispers. It doesn't shout. It's calm, centered, and certain. Because real power never begs. It commands through authenticity. Andrew Carnegie once told me, "I never hired men for what they could do, I hired them for what they could become." Think about that. He looked not for skill but for potential. And the man who consistently gave something more was always the man he promoted first. That's the invisible currency of success. Character. Character is what you are when no one is watching. It's the small, unseen acts of excellence that build your inner strength brick by brick. And once your character becomes solid, your reputation will follow. Naturally, because reputation is simply character seen by others. You want more influence? Then stop trying to be interesting. Start being interested. Listen more than you speak. Give credit freely. Keep your word when it's inconvenient. Do the right thing when no one is clapping. Every time you do, you add invisible weight to your words. You build a voice people trust. And in a world drowning in noise, trust is the rarest and most valuable currency of all. Now here's something I've observed after studying thousands of successful men and women. They all possessed what I call controlled enthusiasm. They didn't walk around wildly excited. They carried quiet fire. They were alive with purpose. And that quiet fire made people want to be near them. That's the third dimension of something more. Enthusiasm with direction. Because enthusiasm without direction is chaos. But enthusiasm guided by purpose is power. If you're selling an idea, a product, or even yourself, your belief must burn brighter than their doubt. People don't buy facts, they buy faith. They buy into your conviction before they buy into your idea. That's why the most magnetic people on earth aren't the loudest. They're the most certain. Certainty is contagious. When you know who you are, when you know what you stand for, the world begins to move around your certainty. It bends in your direction. That's influence. But let me give you the greatest secret of all. Your influence will only grow to the extent that you help others grow. You can't rise by stepping on people. You rise by lifting them. You expand by expanding others. Because the man who helps another man win never loses himself in the process. This is the law of increase. Whatever you give away, knowledge, opportunity, kindness, comes back to you multiplied. Not always immediately, but always inevitably. So never fear giving too much. Fear giving too little. If you pour your best into others, the universe will pour its best into you. I once asked a great leader how he built his empire of loyal men. He said, "I never commanded them. I made them feel that my success was theirs too." And that, my friend, is leadership. The art of making others want to help you succeed. When people feel seen, valued, and uplifted in your presence, you become a light they don't want to lose. Your personal magnetism isn't born from dominance, it's born from service. Service is love expressed through action. And love, when applied intelligently, is the most irresistible force in business and life. Now think of this. Every day you meet people who could open doors for you, but only if you make them feel something. Not impressed, inspired. Not manipulated, moved. And inspiration is always born from authenticity. You don't need to act like anyone else. You simply need to live the highest truth of who you already are. When you stand in that truth, you radiate confidence without arrogance. People trust your energy before they trust your words. That's the kind of influence that lasts. Because while fame fades, character compounds. Remember, every conversation is a seed. Plant it with honesty, water it with effort, and one day it will grow into opportunity. Never underestimate the value of one good impression. It can open more doors than money ever could. And when you combine genuine service with clear purpose, the world begins to conspire in your favor. Opportunities chase you. People recommend you. Your name travels further than your voice. That's when you realize you no longer need to ask for success. You attract it. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself this question. Who did I lift today? If you can answer that honestly, you've already given something more than most. And remember, every act of giving increases your invisible influence. Every sincere effort builds your unseen wealth. Every moment of service writes your legacy. This is the third law of something more. To grow beyond yourself, help someone else rise. And when you do, you won't just build success, you'll build significance. Because in the end, the world forgets what you owned, but it never forgets who you helped become more.